This episode had to be kind of split into two parts because we both got phone calls that we had to take. So, sorry about that, y'all. But I wanted to get the episode out to you as soon as I could. You'll hear me talk about how we haven't seen the whole season yet because it's not all out at this point. But by the time I talk about Valor Stealers, you'll hear a definitive change in the episode. But I want to give you a heads up. Thank you, fan peeps. Keep on doing your thing. Hey fan peeps, this is your podcast host Kunal here. I started this during the pandemic, and in this podcast I discuss my nerdy thoughts and hobbies with you, with the occasional special guest. From anime to Zeppelins, we talk about it all. Alright guys, fan peeps, thanks for listening, thanks for joining in today. Got another repeat guest, Andrew Diaz. How you doing, sir?
What's up, dude?
Not much. Just recording a podcast.
No doubt.
It's called a bad joke. It's how we open up things. So today's kind of a fun episode. I mean, it's always a fun episode, but today's a fun episode because one, it's returning guest. Two, you're actually in front of me this time.
Yeah, we don't have Zoom audio issues this time, I think.
We don't have Zoom audio issues, and we're not like social distancing for potential chance of exposure and stuff. Now it's like we're outside of the COVID days, or at least mostly outside of it. It's still going on.
I think we're actually still in a pandemic.
Technically, I think we are.
Which I don't think anyone's even asking, like, are we lifting that? No one's asking.
Yeah,
We're just like, fuck it.
It's like I go to restaurants now, and I sometimes see people wearing masks, and I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
Yeah.
And like whenever I've flown since it started, I've 100% worn a mask and stuff. But it's nice to get some breath around it, but we do need to still take it seriously, for sure.
Sure.
But yeah, so background of how this episode really started was because it was like end of January or something, like mid to late January. We got together. We were getting some ramen. And you asked me a question because we were just catching up because it was officially like the new year.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, man, like, have you caught The Last of Us? And my answer was initially no, because I remember playing the game. I remember loving it. But I knew that I had a feeling that Hollywood would take it and just, one, destroy it. Number two,
oh, ye of little faith.
I know. And here we are. We're doing a whole goddamn episode about it. Just give me some time. And that they would just make it super gory. And I'm glad to say that after you talking to me that day, I gave it a chance. And not only did I give it a chance, I binged it in an entire weekend up to like the 6th episode at that time.
Yeah.
And I was like, God damn it, I'm an idiot.
Yeah. Now you're simping for Pedro Pascal.
I mean, who isn't?
Yeah.
Tio Pedro is our dude. I mean, the guy has had an amazing, I guess, since like 2018, 2019, he's just been doing nothing but good things.
Yeah. The only, I think, breakout performance of his that I've missed so far has been Narcos. Have you checked that out?
I have. I caught it when Narcos starts out with Escobar, and then they do other stuff after he dies. And he was great in that. I loved him as he's a very, very likable DEA agent.
He's in the spoiler alert if you haven't watched the show. I have no idea. I haven't watched it.
It's like in the first 30 seconds.
Oh, never mind.
So like he's like,
you bastard.
I mean, you're the bastard for putting me on like that. So that reminds me, this entire episode is going to be spoilers for said video game of The Last of Us, and also the show up till episode 8. So the final episode comes out, I think, this weekend. Yeah. And we're recording it after the 8th episode just dropped because they slated 9 episodes for this first season.
Yeah. Kunal didn't do his homework for this episode, so we sat down together and watched episode 8.
Yes, and I'm glad you did. Again, I will fully admit that because I was having, just you turn 30 and, you need to take more care of yourself. Now, still running in the mind of a 29-year-old. So,
This is becoming the Out Kunal podcast.
The Out Kunal.
just outing you for anything, any transgressions.
Any and all transgressions just recorded within 1 hour synopses, like that come out once a month. Yeah. Just to fuck me up. But yeah, like getting back to things that are not completely assassinating my character. I totally stole that line from my dad the other day. It's just a long story. Yeah, I love that, like, Pedro Pascal has just been killing it. I mean, he's been really, the first time he really started killing it was Narcos, and then like Game of Thrones, where he got really popular for playing, I forgot his character's name.
Sexy DEA agent, apparently.
No, Game of Thrones.
Oh, Game of Thrones, sexy Viper guy.
Yeah,
Oberyn Martell.
Oberyn Martell, that's right.
From
he's playing
Dorne.
From Dorne. Did that, and then he played the Mandalorian, which honestly renewed my faith in Star Wars in a lot of ways.
I'd agree. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
But yeah, let's. You want to dive right into it?
Yeah, go for it, man.
Lead the way. Before we do that, speaking of just simping for Tio Pedro, definitely go watch the SNL show that he hosted this year.
Solid.
If you find a clip that's bad from that hosting, I will buy someone lunch. Like that's how good. That's how good it was. We were watching it this weekend. Yeah. In fact, you came out, and the gang came out and hung out with us this past weekend, and we're like loving every minute of it.
I was genuinely surprised because typically an entire episode of SNL has like 10 skits, I feel like.
Something like that.
And it's like maybe one hits every episode at minimum.
Like
and then like when a great guest comes on and the writers just do everything right, maybe you get like 2 or 3 good clips.
Yeah.
Super surprised to see that pretty much every clip with Pedro hit. And the best one, in my opinion, was the shortest one that I watched. I think it was called Wing Bowl or something like this, where like Super Wings or something. Oh yeah,
like 1,000
it's
wings.
It's basically they're watching the Super Bowl, and then like Wingstop-esque intense commercial, they become engrossed as the center of it, and then instead of getting the 10-piece wings, it's the 20-piece. Instead of the 20-piece, it's like, how about the 200 or 2,000 piece? And they're like, we don't need all these wings. And they're like, many. We're going to bring them in via cement truck.
And then it's like, stop. Don't they pour in like after they bring in like the
it's like liquidated chicken in a can.
That, and then like the ranch sauce comes through and everything.
Oh God. Like, yeah. My favorite part is where they're just like, have these 2,000 wings with these ethnically questionable named sauces. Like Jamaican me crazy. And I was like, what that underrated line, dude. Underrated line. Yeah. So, honestly, solid episode.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Plus when he plays the grandmother.
That was very accurate. Let me tell you, as a Dominican Cuban American male, like who has like the experience of like my mother's from Dominican Republic directly. Mm-hmm. She's very much that lady, and when I bring, my wife is white, and like, but when I was dating, I did bring home a lot of women who are not like from my culture, and she would have that reaction 100% of the time until they signaled something to her that let her know like, oh, this girl knows and respects the culture and isn't trying to like take my son and basically like whitewash him in the weird way. Island people are very protective of their culture like that. It's very true.
I mean, it is true. Like you don't want I dare I say, you don't want the mainland to squash you out.
Yeah. She was like scared that I would probably like never eat her plantains again or something. And she was like,
I love plantains, man.
Do you?
Yeah. You can have them like with the meal, after the meal as like a dessert option. It's the best.
Plantains are a super staple in Dominican culture.
It's the superior like version of bananas.
The superior banana. It 100% is.
It's the superior banana.
100% is.
Which is something that you and I would totally say in a conversation too. Getting back on track, because people came here for The Last of Us. As much as I'm happy that sketch is so true. Whenever I hear that they're going to make a video game series or anything into a movie, and
you curse the gods.
I curse the gods. I turn into Kratos. I'm like, I just was like, let me
Zeus face me, and it's like Sony Picture Studios.
Oh my God! Like in our childhood, basically for the most of it, or parts of it rather. And I'm like, okay, it's too whimsy. It's too fantastical. It could also, it might be not even the hyper violence, but just like they just will do it to make it like profitable. And I'm like, okay, you're basically, i.e. like Assassin's Creed.
Dude, this is exactly where my brain went in terms of failed movie franchises. Okay, good, it's maybe one of the worst examples in recent history.
And I love Fassbender, and I love that Assassin's Creed series. It's kind of crazy that I haven't done an episode on Assassin's Creed yet, to be honest with you. But yeah, whenever I hear that, I'm like, just make an animated version, make it good, and kind of sign off. Because like DC's been killing it in the animated films. Mm-hmm. Marvel's been killing it in the live action films, is my opinion on that. But you convinced me really, really well on that day of having ramen. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And something that really like hit me strong about it was I remember there's a famous voice actress that I enjoy her work, and she's shown up in a bunch of different things. She voiced Tiny Tina in Borderlands too, and her name's Ashley Birch.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
Really,
Yeah.
really has blown up since we both like left college and everything. And
so I'm not doing shit with my life apparently.
I mean, like same here. I'm running a goddamn podcast. What else am I doing? Like,
yeah.
She's like she had this really interesting point, like the Watchmen movie.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, it went to the other degree of like nerds did it almost page by page in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
But by doing that, you're kind of losing some things, because when you're pushing it to a different medium, you have to do things differently.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm really glad the TV show is doing so far, and we're going to get into that for sure. They've done a really good job, because you have to cultivate the emotion and setting in a different way. It has to jump literally to your eyes in a different form or facet.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I want to hear your points of like why you like the Last of Us show so much so far.
I like the show because I like the game so much.
That's
you know what I mean?
That's actually kind of what I wanted to. I'm sorry. Tell me about like how you got into the game, and then bounce that into how you got into the show.
Yeah, I've shown people the show so far who've never played that video game in their life, and they love it. So I'm sure I would love it either way. But for me, my connection to it is through the fact that I played the game. Right? Mm-hmm. It was the first PS4 game that I had ever played.
I didn't know that.
The second I got a PS4, The Last of Us Remastered came out. Mm-hmm. Fun fact was that they remastered even the soundtrack to the game, and they launched the PS4 with these headphones, the white like 7.1 surround sound headphones. When you turn on the game, that double string guitar intro plays with that beautiful little riff.
Santo Alo.
Right in my head. Oh, is that the artist? Or
that's the artist or composer of it.
Right. So, I just remember instantly something about, when a sound really burrows its way into your subconscious, it's like, I think I'm just going to make a little home right here.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
That just 20 seconds of it just instantly was like, something's going to be different about this. And when I played it, it was like the first experience I had where I felt like I was actually playing a modern piece of film or art or something that I was in the middle of. And so it was one of my favorites, just artistically. But then on top of the fact that it had such a, let's say, complex way of delivering to you towards the end, that like, yeah, you're playing the main character, but you're not the good guy, and you've never really been the good guy.
And no one is really.
Right, no one is. And the show is doing a great job of making you remember that like no one's the good guy without being cheesy about it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, one of the characters who I think is really contentious that comes up now for TV show watchers is Kathleen.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't in the games.
That's another thing, too. Like, they don't even call Fedra as a name was not in the game.
No, it was.
Was it?
Yeah. It was in the game. It was in the game, but
it's been too long.
Maybe it might have been a different organization name, but I feel like it could have been Fedra.
Right. I feel like it slipped in so well. It kind of works. It works.
It was a background thing. Fedra, for the most part, was sort of just the mechanism to describe why the Fireflies exist.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, why is there anarchy in the first place? Well, because the government tried to reestablish itself through a military organization.
And it essentially just became super fascist.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Surprise, government. Whoa, I didn't see that coming. No, but what I'm saying about Kathleen is that
none of us did.
In terms of like, they're not being a good person, it's like, Kathleen's character's existence shows that like good people just don't survive in this world. Yeah. Her brother was a good person. He's dead. You know what I mean? The two that Kathleen are chasing, oh god, I'm forgetting their names right now, but the brother pair from that episode.
Yes, yeah.
The little brother's good, but he's innocent because he's a child. The older brother, he's not good.
He's a rat.
He's not a good person.
In the game, and we're gonna definitely talk about. I've labeled some differences, but that's one thing they did very interestingly in the show, because in the game they're just two brothers trying to survive. In fact, the younger brother is more of a preteen.
Yeah,
and he's he doesn't have any auditory impairment.
Right.
So like it's kind of a different switch. Their parents are dead. They're trying to find their relatives. They were with a group and they've lost the group. They're just trying to survive. They're kind of just a passerby. Whereas if you did that in the show, people would kind of forget them.
Yeah.
They would not have any like the why should we care about these people?
Yeah, because you don't really play the adventure with them. But all that to say that, like, you know, in the show and in the game, they're doing the same things that make me love it. And it's not just about sticking to what they've already written, but they're just showcasing, I think, some very real parts of how we would probably behave without being preachy about the messaging of, you know, this girl's the hope for humanity. It's really never even done that once to try to be like,
not at
the
all.
world's about her. It's you know, Joel finds her important because he sees her as a way to deal with his loss.
It's a way to,
right?
like, it's a young girl around the same age.
Yeah.
He can heal from the trauma.
This is one of those things that I
incurred.
feel like anyone who's lost someone ever, if you play the game or if you watch the show, if you've lost someone who means something to you, then you're going to connect with this thing immediately afterwards. I mean, no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so for me, that's where it's at with me.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. And, you know, it reminds me of this other point too. When you play the video game, immediately it starts with his daughter, Sarah, just like on the couch. And they show that in the first episode as well.
Yeah.
They do an interesting thing that you pointed out when we were eating dinner that night and said they show you like her getting the watch for her dad and going to getting it fixed, her going to school, her doing all these things, her swiping cash from her dad's drawer to pay for his own gift, which is hilarious.
I mean, how's dad's going to get those birthday socks if I don't take $20 out of his wallet?
I agree.
Right?
I agree.
Like, yeah.
You know, you got to get the good stuff that they pay for. And by doing that, you kind of develop a bond with Sarah. She's even wearing the same shirt they do in the game. And by doing that, by having that happen, you immediately like feel Joel's like understanding, like, okay, this is truly my daughter. You can definitely tell that this is a little girl that loves her father.
Yeah.
And I love that about that, because whereas in the game you're just watching a cutscene of them getting the watch, he gets the watch and he carries that watch to the rest of his days, even though it gets shot and doesn't work after that.
Yeah.
So,
well, to my interpretation of why it's so good the way they did it in the game and why it still works in the show, like why the difference was needed. So in the game, you don't actually have a good reason to care for Joel's daughter other than the fact that she's his daughter and that's a kid. And you should care, you heartless monster.
Exactly.
No, but honestly, like if you just showed someone who has a daughter and then said she's about to get shot, that is sad.
Yeah.
But why do we even care about it in the video game? And my theory on that, for me personally, is that you actually physically spend the first 20 to 30 minutes of that game defending her, actively protecting her. So you are involved. You're engaged in the defense of this little girl.
Stakes are shown.
Right. Well, the stakes are shown, but it's
like,
your stakes now.
Right.
You're the one behind the controller. Right. So you have a personal responsibility, and now you have personal buy-in to this character's survival. So when she dies, not only is it obviously awful because it's his daughter, but you failed. Like you, the player, you failed. Like ultimately, even though it was a cutscene, the position of being the person behind the controller means that you already have more personal investment in this.
You are psychologically that person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The immersion element of it. You are personally responsible right now for failing that. And then in the show, well, they can't actually make you protect her, right? You're just watching it. It's like watching the Let's Play. I'm sure people cried watching Jacksepticeye fail to, like, you know, rescue her, but it's not the same when you're not behind the controller. So what do? Well, the only thing you can do is give us a reason to connect to her. Yeah, get to know her. Get to know her. Take us through her day, and you know, she makes breakfast for her dad, so she's obviously a caring daughter. She remembers his birthday when he doesn't. You know, it's all these little things to really just set up. This is such a good, smart, you know, just a great textbook example of a daughter. And Joel's honestly just a really shitty dad. You know what I mean? Like he's not, but he's, you know, I'm really, I'm sure there's a lot of reasons. I mean, he's a single father.
He's
There's
overworked.
struggles there. He's overworked.
Yeah.
But he's not prioritizing the right things in his life. Right. And then so you feel sad for her.
Right.
More than you would have if we'd have just told you that he's not a great dad. But you
Right.
feel sad for her. So now it's like, this is the time for you to show up. This is the time for you to do the dad thing. You got to rescue her because you've been failing everything else. And then
You failed at the ultimate thing.
you fail at the ultimate thing. So the show and the game have been doing it differently, but I feel like
And I'm so glad
in
they
the
are.
right ways.
honestly.
Yeah, in the
Like-
right ways.
Because this reminds me of also how everything you're saying reminds me of how doctors approach patients, or whenever they're doing autopsies, they always call it a cadaver, as opposed to like, now sure, like when they're doing like the coroner report, they'll have all their information, but I mean, necessarily the coroner doesn't know that person that has died, the cadaver that's on
Oh,
there.
are we talking about like dehumanization of the body?
In terms of that, like I'm relating it more to like in terms of immersion and knowing the person. Like if the coroner knew said person, probably would not be able to do their job.
Oh, the conflict of interest due to the emotional burden.
Exactly.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah.
So by showing us like what kind of person she is, like showing us the care level of care, like she's going and taking care of her neighbors. She's going and getting a DVD so her dad can have a fun, fun experience. Like
very creative.
Very creatively done. And by showing us all these little tidbits, it's like being a coroner for someone that you know has passed away.
Yeah.
And it's nearly impossible to do that job and see what the toxicology report, see what the autopsy is showing.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, okay, male, 31 years old, 5'6", 145 pounds. Here you go.
Yeah,
It's
reducing them to the statistics of it.
Which is what I just basically did to myself. But I really like how they did that, and that really has strung true to me as I've been watching this show. So thank you for pointing that part out.
Honestly, hot take, she had to go. She had to go because she was making me realize
Why do you
that
sound
I'm
like a
really
mobster? Good God.
She had to go. She's sleeping with the fishes. Listen, she made me realize for real, I am the shittiest gift buyer on earth.
What?
She makes her dad pancake. Well, she was gonna make him pancakes. Then she makes him breakfast. Then she makes dinner. She has like a watch fixed. You know what I mean? Like, meanwhile, dude, like my gift giving, I'm going into my dad's closet and I'm whatever tie that I can reach from the closet, I'm ripping it down and I'm repackaging it along with some socks and like a pen from his desk. You know what I mean? Like my dad was not getting like here she is, hopping on buses going around the city. She had to go. She's not making me feel good about myself.
I feel like
what I mean?
That's a you problem.
It looks like it's a her problem now. But but I digress. No, they did a good job with her.
I feel like this goes back to your point of only the good people die.
Only the good people die. I'm living forever in this universe is what I'm trying to say, bro. Like if I make it to The Last of Us,
you're just gonna be immortal then, essentially at this point.
I'm living probably.
Okay. So that means okay, gotcha.
I might live a Bill and Frank life.
Oh my God.
You don't even know. You don't know. You don't know what my life will be like post-apocalypse.
Which is so differently done. I'm so glad you brought that up because that brings me to my next point. It's very different in the video game.
Oh yeah.
It's extremely different.
And it had to be.
I think it had to be because otherwise it would have been too cold.
Well, that's an interesting take. I feel like it had to be because entire storyline sequence is mostly just action.
Yeah, there's not much there.
Yeah, you do pick up the background of Bill and Frank and their tumultuous relationship through the form of little letters you find strung up along the world. But the reality is, in the post-apocalypse, we're not walking around inspecting a kitchen and randomly finding notes by people explaining their lives and how they've been doing so far.
True.
You know what I mean? So like, and I don't even know that we had to care about Bill and Frank, but it's nice that we do and should, because shooting cordyceps infected people is going to get boring at some point.
It's gonna at some level dehumanize you too, even further. And I felt this was one way to like they could take advantage of it and be like, here's a beautiful story of how these guys fell in love. And I thought that was really cool. Also, just fucking love how Ron Swanson is essentially living out his dream.
He has a real name.
I know.
It's not Ron Swanson. You bastard. What's your gamer tag? That's how I'm going to address you forever, because that's what we're doing.
Oh, fuck you.
What's his name? Say his name. It's not Heisenberg. Hint.
I know it's not Heisenberg. God damn it. Nick Offerman.
Thank God, because I forgot, guys. I was putting you on the hot seat.
You put me in the hot seat. I was cooking so badly.
Bro.
And I was like, fuck, I don't remember his name. And then thank God it came to me because I was watching Parks and Rec clips this morning. Okay, you bastard.
Yo, you Googled that so fast. I'm really impressed.
No, I don't have my phone.
No, he's got his phone, guys.
It's in my, it's not, it's on my person, but it's not in front of me. So I don't know what I've been watching too much of this show because I just said on my person.
On my person. Man, I heard they had like an extended, I want the extended cut.
Of the show?
Did you hear? No, the Bill and Frank episode has an extended cut.
Oh.
It's about 2 hours long.
Interesting.
And the director of the episode said that it was so intense that he was just crying for like an hour of it.
Oh my God.
And I'm here for the pain. I don't know why, but I really,
It's also just good to see a queer representation on the screen, honestly, and like just like a very kind way. And these were people that just fell in love. I love that.
I do like that, but in a different way that I think I feel like when people say that, I'm not transcribing that upon you, but I feel like when people say that, they just mean that they're just happy to just see, the representation in any capacity. But for me personally, as a Hispanic male, I'm not content with like my culture being represented on screen in the form of a checkbox, especially if it's just like stereotypes of us, right?
I agree with that.
And Bill and Frank, neither of them fit, like, they're obviously gay men, and Frank is definitely,
they're not stereotypical.
Right.
Yeah,
they're not making caricatures of gay people,
right?
And really like throwing in your, like there's visuals of them being intimate with one another, but it's not them trying to be, I don't know, weird about it. It was all organic.
It's not like
Do you know what I'm saying?
They weren't wearing rainbow jackets.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. It's not like he's walking around the apocalypse in a rainbow shirt, like, I'm gonna be who I'm gonna be.
Right. It's
it's like I just am gay. It just is what it is, and this is my life.
I thought that, but I didn't know how to put that into words. In the game, you just see Frank's corpse, right? Because Bill is the one that you work with.
Yeah. He's hanging from the ceiling,
and it's extremely, extremely dark, as opposed to the show where they actually both euthanize each other.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it worked for the show, and it was actually like a respite, honestly, like it's just a repose for these two people, just to get some calmness in their life. I thought that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But in the game, it was far, far darker, and it almost like. Bill and Frank's part in the game. I mean, Frank, we don't really get to know Frank at all. Honestly, we just get to know of him, like you said, from the letters and from his interactions from Bill. But all he does is just cut him down, says something snarky, and then walks away after that, and that's the end of it. We don't hear about them at all after that.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of nice to get some closure for it at this time, as opposed to just be like, wow, this is just extremely dark and everything.
Yeah. I mean,
personally, that was my take on it.
No, it's a fair take, and to some extent, the ending is still dark, maybe a bit macabre, but I feel like it's like dark but lovely. But the point is that like, I've always kind of wondered that, if I'm being real, like,
what do you mean?
If the apocalypse comes up, you really do have to find. I mean, granted, like the will to live is strong for most people, right?
Sure.
Like for 99.9% of people out there, you want to live. But in the apocalypse, if you are that prepper and you're living by yourself on the land, and you've got, rabbit for dinner and all these things are fine, but you've got no one else around.
What's the point?
What's the point, dude? Like, what's the point?
Like you're just existing. You're existing nicely.
Yeah.
But you're just existing.
Yeah, and so Frank helps Bill recognize that, and that's really beautiful. Bill probably would have lived for a really long time, which almost sounds like it flies in the face of what I was saying earlier about, good people not living in this universe. But debatably, he wouldn't have really been living.
No, he would.
You know what I'm saying?
He would have just been breathing.
So even he would have been dead in my eyes.
He would have been dead in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. That's a really good take, man. I like that.
Yeah. But I will admit, the beard on beard awkward kissing was rough for me. It's not that. Let me rephrase that just to make sure no one takes me out of context. The kissing wasn't a problem. It's the awkwardness, because obviously it's his first time with another man.
Yeah, because he's been repressed this whole time.
And I don't like watching anybody's first kiss. Okay. There's not a single good first kiss I've ever seen where it's not like
awkward. They don't know what they're doing.
This is so weird. You're like not sure where each other are at yet.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Like people have different styles of kissing.
People are different. Yeah, you ever see two people go in with this different styles of a kiss, and then it's like, one's
like more tongue, one's like more lips.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I can't believe I said that out loud.
Thank God Frank was just like, go take a shower. I'm like, oh shit, okay, Frank's apparently a top. Okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, I was really surprised. I genuinely surprised.
I didn't think I'd say like tongue or lips today, but here we are.
You know what I do miss though?
What do you miss?
If definitely not that kissing scene, but what I do miss,
you miss the awkward. You didn't like the awkwardness of it. I could
the awkwardness
that.
of it. Yeah. I mean, I could
give
give a shit about gay people kissing. I just mean like the awkwardness of a first kiss is weird.
It's weird for anybody.
What I miss is the one thing that you can't replicate that is important in video games, besides the action, is the banter. Like when you're walking through the world, you pick up one of Ellie's comic books.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, fucking sweet! Is that issue 16?
Survive and live.
Survive, live. Yeah, I don't know. Something super ridiculous. Yeah. Oh no. Oh, what's the name of the comic? No. Like Cosmic something.
Yeah.
But point is, she'll pick up a comic, and then Joel will be like, "You really read this shit?" And she'll be like, "Hey, it's actually really good." And then as you're walking through the story, she might be reading it aloud, and Joel will make a comment towards it. And I don't know. There's just something that like. Again, just brings the tension down from how awful things are.
See, I completely disagree because I think they've done a great job of it in this. So in terms of grabbing certain things and doing that, yeah, you can't do that in there. But like, there's parts where she's reading the joke book to him.
That was well done.
And then the part where they're in the car and she finds the play. It's literally like almost.
Oh, it's shot for shot.
Shot for shot.
Yeah.
And you've seen this. Where she finds the Playboy in the car. She's like, why are all the pages stuck together?
Yeah, she finds the Playboy in Bill's pickup.
Throws it away after that.
Yeah, that was sick.
Another part which I thought was really interesting when they're going to the museum, and specifically there are two characters. I forgot. I know it's Tess, Joel, and Ellie, but I forget who leaves and who goes. And there's a moment where like you open the door and it's straight out of a goddamn video game. There's just a bunch of rocks that are there. And he goes around. He's like, I'll just go around and try to open it from the other side. And they're talking. And eventually the third person comes around and opens the door. He's like, okay, ready to go.
Actually, you're right. They did create that moment for them to have.
I truly felt that when I did that. And I feel like that's why I was like remembering, even though I had played the game back, I think 2016. I remember that very clearly. In my parents, when it was like the last year I lived with my parents, I was playing that because my brother actually had the game, and he had finished part of it. He's like, I've kind of lost track with it. You go. And I'm like, okay, cool. I heard people like talk about this. I was like, okay, I'll check it out. And then I remember specifically seeing that scene and just being like, oh my gosh. Like so many memories of that time just came back to me as I was binging the show that weekend. So that was really cool. I felt like the banter is really good. Like when they're riding on the horse and she's just saying stuff when they're doing shooting practice. I think they even, I don't know if they were right asshole on it, but there are parts that I really felt the banter was really good. And yeah, I really liked that. I thought they did the banter pretty well.
I think they do it well. I'm just saying I miss so much of it. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And granted, like I said, this show, the difference is you can't do that the whole time during the show. It would get annoyingly quippy and things would be weird.
It would take you out of it.
Yeah, it would take you out of it. You know what the show doesn't get enough credit for? I don't feel like I've heard anybody talk about this.
Go for it.
The importance of selected family.
Found families.
Okay. Yeah, in the show. Like there's a very strong theme of that to some extent in the show. Like there are the families that very few people still have their family.
Yeah.
In this show.
And blood relatives for sure.
Blood relatives specifically. And so people wind up finding themselves in these communities and making something there. And it's really interesting to see how that plays against real family, especially when you look at like Tommy.
Yeah.
Right?
I was just about to bring that up.
Yeah,
Go for
Tommy's
it.
has a found family in his new little community where he's got electricity. I mean, let's be real. I'd abandon my blood family for like running water too in the apocalypse. I think, but really, like, you know,
Diaz is going to be a last name that succeeds generations from
1,000%, 1,000%. The only thing that matters is my legacy.
Indeed.
No, but Tommy is put up against real family versus his found family.
Yeah.
Because of his wife and the fact that he has a kid on the way. And,
Right.
you know, Ellie doesn't have a real family. She only has found families.
She was orphaned.
Right.
Yeah.
If you look at, the brothers whose name I keep forgetting.
Sam and not Sam.
No, Sam is the kid. Sam is the kid.
I am blanking on his name too.
Let's just call him the rat. Sam and the rat have a really interesting relationship where they abandoned their found family because they were a part of this community.
Yeah.
And chose real family. It almost kind of seems like if you choose real family in this show, you will die.
And that's exactly what happens because Joel even opens up and says, you know, I've never seen Ellie smile like this in a long time. And he goes, yeah, I've never seen my brother smile like this in a long time. He's like, you know, we're going to walk most of the way to Wyoming. You guys can just come with us. He's like, if that's cool.
Yeah.
And there's a moment there where you're like, oh shit, this party's going to become 4. And then immediately right after that, you know.
That was a well done.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It was so good. Honestly.
And it was very similar to the game too. Very similar to the game.
Can we talk about scenes they haven't done as well as the game?
Before we do that, there's one point I do want to come to that, but
go ahead.
Before we do that, specifically when you mentioned Tommy and how he goes to the dam, in the game it's very different. He has been gone for like a decade or so, at least almost 2 decades, I think. I don't believe he was an Army Ranger in the game.
I think it's implied that they are both definitely like
military or
ex-service.
or
At least one of them is, you know.
I always thought that Joel was in some capacity, but I don't remember them officially saying that. It's been a long time since I played the game, and I was more trying to collect my thoughts on the show rather than the game for this one. But him being an Army Ranger was really interesting. And again, like I think it brings to this earlier point of they're trying to show you a level of urgency. It's only been 3 months since he's contacted him, and at this point he's like, I don't know why Tommy hasn't checked in. I don't know why he hasn't done all this stuff. And there's a moment in the game where they specifically say, he's like, how come you just left me for decades? He's like, because I still have nightmares of what we did, Joel. And they say that same line here, but it's different in the show. In the show, he's not judgmental. In the game, I feel he's more judgmental because he's like, we did so many things that were incredibly fucked up. And I thought they were going to show a clip of what they did. I'm kind of surprised.
That would have been amazing.
I wish they did that.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to, like, they could show it in the last episode by the time this airs. So who knows? But I wish they did that just to ground you into more like what Joel did and what they all did, in fact.
Yeah. Because it's a really interesting point, actually.
Thanks,
because really, so obviously they've gone out of their way to establish that Joel can be violent.
Yeah.
That he is that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, when he sees Tess with the black eye, he basically is about to just, you know, go absolutely ape shit on the people who did it, and she stops him, right? So obviously we're establishing that he's that dude. And in the most recent episode 8, spoilers again for people who haven't watched, but you know, he knifes someone's kneecap.
Oh God!
And almost pops it out in the pursuit of finding. You know,
sound effects on that.
The sound effects. Oh my God, they killed me. But doing all of that definitely takes, I think, the kind of fortitude that you had to have done it before. I mean, you're not going to go from never having shoved a knife in a kneecap to just doing that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like within the first hour of finding out
and
there's
like
trouble.
Not being shocked that you just did that too.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and then he bashes the other dude's brains in with an iron pipe. It's like, okay, obviously he's that dude. They're setting it up. But I really would love to get just a glimpse as to some of those horrific things they used to do. But I think that maybe, now that I'm thinking about it out loud,
It's weird.
it might put people against him. Because the beauty of the first game is that you really do think you're the good guy to some extent.
Yes, you do.
For the majority of the game.
Like, okay, he's had this dark past, but this is a redemption tale, right?
This is a redemption tale.
Right?
It's a selfish tale. It's a selfish tale about a guy who lost everything and is unwilling to give it up ever again.
And quite frankly, can you blame him? No, I don't think I can. Like, to a point. But we're jumping around a lot. Yeah.
I feel I have heavy feelings that we'll have to talk about after the finale. But
we can honestly make it a two-parter. I don't mind doing that.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about the finale because I have some feelings about that shit.
I have some feelings about that too.
What did you think of the cult leader in the latest episode?
So when I played the game, I was just getting off. I had a very weird TV run where I really liked watching MASH.
MASH?
Yeah.
You 60-year-old geriatric fuck. Do you want me to get you your Metamucil? Will you be able to continue this podcast?
It's actually in the cupboard behind me. So.
All right.
I'm not even joking. There's like a whole stack of it.
We've actually taken several breaks because he has to pee all the time.
Hey, that was before we recorded. Thank you very much. And that was why you do that before as opposed to after. Getting back to the goddamn episode, he reminded me when I played the game of a weird looking version of Alan Alda. Don't ask me why.
Alan who?
Alan Alda, Hawkeye.
Hawkeye?
Yeah.
Wait. I thought Jeremy Renner played Hawkeye. Am I being an idiot right now?
No, so his nickname in the show is Hawkeye. It's Pierce, guy who played Pierce.
I'm tripping right now. Who are we talking about?
MASH.
All
right, I'm gonna let him laugh.
Dude, I was thinking about Marvel the second you said Hawkeye. All right, sorry. There's a character in MASH called Hawkeye.
Yes.
Remember that I'm not 60.
Okay. So
and then continue.
Okay, I will. Regardless, he has a similar haircut. He doesn't really look a whole lot like him, but for some reason he reminded me of Alan Alda's character.
Okay.
And as I was watching it, it was creepy, and I remember him being just like kind of disgusting and horrible. The actor that they got to play the preacher did a really good job. I really liked what he did. The moment he starts talking to Ellie, I'm like, wow, you just come out swinging. Like, you just come out talking about how good of a person you are, how awesome you are. And you have no problem being abusive. And 90% of the people that are in that hall are women that he's probably sexually molested.
Oh, were they really? I didn't notice that.
A lot of them were women, appeared to be female. And I'm pretty sure he's probably fucking all of them in some capacity.
It's probable.
I mean, he wanted to do that to Ellie, and he almost succeeded too if she hadn't, broken free and everything.
That's really interesting. I mean, a lot of those cults do go that way, right? Where like the person who's up front,
90%,
it's basically sex.
If someone goes out of their way to tell you, like, "Oh, I'm a good guy, I'm a good person,"
nice guy syndrome is what you're saying, right? Like when people are like, "I'm a nice guy," like, why can't I get with somebody?
I don't think he was nice guy syndrome. I think he was just really good at being a cult leader.
What makes a good cult leader? I mean, like, I guess you have to be like entirely arrogant, right?
Which he was in his own quiet way.
Yeah, you have to be dominant. You know, he really just strikes me as the kind of guy who, like, at some point, everyone really did vote him to be a leader, and he let it get to his head.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of different ways that can manifest for people. Some people turn into, like, the governor from The Walking Dead, where it's like, this is now a monarchy.
Yeah.
I run this bitch. I'm the king. And then others... this guy turned it into a what's the phrase for it when it's religious?
Oh, theocracy.
Theocracy. There we go.
Where he's sleeping with everyone there.
Right, and so basically that's how David takes it in the same direction, right? But like both of them have this underlying core of like aggression. But with regards to like stolen valor, dude, I'm from Miami. When I tell you like, it's tough to talk about stolen valor because it's one of those things I only ever like hear about. Like once in a while a video comes up that someone catches someone in the lie. Yeah. But in South Florida, Miami Beach, there are a lot of homeless dudes who are very old, and a lot of them rock the hats and all that stuff. And it's like, I never know if that guy's got that hat because it's from the, St. Vincent's or whatever homeless clothing equivalent place they've got, or like if that's a homeless vet. And it's kind of a fucked up problem. Like,
it is messed up. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know how to go on the topic of homeless people, but
yeah, that was quite the tangent. But
yeah,
he's just really creepy. He's really good at being creepy, He's also being very manipulative. He's very, very good at that. And the actor who plays him does a great job portraying that.
Definitely. When he slapped that girl,
Ugh.
he was like, he slapped her and basically said, "I'm your daddy," which is so nuts.
It was horrible.
Yeah. You know what? On the note of like nice guy, it's like, if you're her daddy, you don't have to say you're her daddy. You're her daddy.
Yeah, like
like Pedro Pascal doesn't tell people I'm your. Well, I guess he does say I'm your daddy.
Well, he does, but he does it with the energy that he's like already shown you.
Right.
He doesn't have to tell you. Like that's the thing that an asshole told me once is like, if whenever you're on stage or something, and it's just from like improv days, it's like never tell me something, show me something.
Right.
Because if you're telling me something that you're just like overly heavy-handed.
That's always the dilemma.
Yeah. It's the balance you have to keep.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest struggle with it too, and if I have to like nitpick at the show at all, especially coming into the finale, given that we're 9 episodes on this one, they don't have a lot of time to work with. You know what I mean? So they do a lot of telling and not showing. So yeah, given that we're 9 episodes in, there's 45 minutes an episode. Roughly. There's just not enough time for them to show and not tell.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
This is different. I mean, I'm talking more about like in the entire understanding of certain important points. But did we ever talk about Troy Baker?
Yeah, that he got stabbed in the neck and it was fucking great.
You saw him immediately the moment he gets on screen, too.
Yeah,
He's
man.
unmistakable in how he shows up there.
And I gotta be honest with you, watching him in that episode, I was like, I want to see this guy in more stuff. You know what I mean? Like, no disrespect on voice acting. It is a tough gig. It's a tough gig. And he did voice acting with mocap, so I know that there was also physical involvement in his acting. I guess I'm just surprised that hasn't translated into something more at this point. Not that being a voice actor isn't a high bar to achieve to aspire to, but it's like, I think the traditional roles, the traditional escalation in terms of like an actor's career still is trying to make it to Hollywood, right? I mean, like, for better or for worse, I feel like that is still where the bar is at for most people, except for like small content creators on YouTube, right? Like for them, it's like a billion followers, a billion watches, better than Hollywood.
Better than that for everything.
But like Troy Baker, I don't see him on YouTube or anything else. So it's like, fuck, this guy's actually really good.
Yeah, and that was another thing too. He has like his record of everything is from anime, like American animation. He has everything on there. He deserves his own episode from how like different his voice is in every role he's done to like the sultry voice that we hear him as Joel.
The sultry
voice. I don't know. It's not raspy, but it's not like, I don't know, whatever Joel.
Ellie.
Yeah, that the Texas voice.
You were
really
treading
good.
on
and
mighty thin ice here.
And he can hide enough in the episode because his actual voice isn't like Joel's.
He voiced Two-Face.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he was in Arkham Knight and stuff.
He's in God of War.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
This is nuts. He's got some great credits.
His creds are ridiculous.
Let's see what else my man has over here. I always love seeing what people are known for. He was in BioShock Infinite. Oh, he's Booker DeWitt. Yeah. He's the main character in BioShock Infinite.
The power of Google.
Wow. Wait, and he's no, not Nathan Drake. Oh, he's Drake's brother.
Yep. He shows up in the 4th one.
He's Drake's brother. Okay, Yeah, that's pretty dope. That is pretty fucking dope. Yeah. I mean, you know what? Look, if for him, his level of success, he feels like the thing that I aspire to be the most is a voice actor, then my man's definitely got that shit locked in. I'm just saying that
he's doing fine.
Yeah, he's doing just fucking fine. But I'm just saying he's got in my opinion, like that episode showed me like he's got the chops. I believed in his like inner conflict against David and what they were doing.
You could definitely tell he was so scared but didn't know what to do, and it was like, we need leaders. I trust him enough. And it was a very, very abusive relationship.
The struggle of the number 2 who's not quite confident enough to take power.
Right. But also knows that no one else doesn't feel like he can do it. And doesn't know of anyone else that could do it.
Right.
But knows that the way that they're doing it is really fucked up.
Yeah.
He did a good job.
Speaking of people with crazy credits, you want to talk about that one you just dropped on me before we got live?
Oh, we're going to get to that.
Shit.
We're going to get to that.
All right.
Don't you worry. So that pretty much sums most of that. Like Ellie, the episode ends with Ellie
crying into Joel's arms.
Crying into Joel's arms after she kills the pastor.
Yeah.
And very violently. It's very accurate to the video game. And then the next episode starts up where they're walking again, and winter's passed, and they're going. And this is like her first glimpse of having PTSD or some trauma.
Yeah,
like
she was very silent.
It's like having
so sad,
like a concussion grenade going off, or like when you get punched in the ear and like there's that fizzing sound. It's really, really scary, and you can tell like this hardcore guy that has killed people and done so much atrocities in his life is trying to cheer this little girl up.
Yeah.
And
well, because he's finally happy.
Yeah.
Right. It's the unfortunate reality is that he's finally happy for the first time in his life, and now the only other person who he cares about being happy is no longer happy. It's like it took her for him to be happy.
And like finally, this is like the really big time we start really seeing her cemented as psychologically his daughter again, which I thought was really, really sweet and just really heartwarming to see happen.
Yeah,
he even tells her about the suicide, that like the mark on his.
Was that in the game, dude?
I don't
remember that.
I don't remember that being in the game. I think that was just a dramatic license they took in the show, which was really good.
Good dramatic license for sure.
Honestly, I loved it. I love what they did with that because I don't remember him having the scar in the game. Especially.
Yeah. Here's an interesting thought I had when I was watching the episode, though. Like, I guess being able to see these events happen so quick back to back, rather than 4 hours of gameplay in between.
Yeah.
I had the thought that Ellie definitely has been like the whole time seeing the sacrifices made so far to get her to where they need to go.
Right.
But I really do think that the events with David really made her feel like, well, at this point, I definitely need to save the world.
Yeah.
Because not only, did I fail to save, oh, Jesus, what's his name? The brothers.
Yeah.
Right. Not only did I fail to save them.
Henry and Sam.
Yeah. Right. Not only did Tess die for me, but like, if this doesn't work, like, what do I have left? The world is rapists and murderers, apparently, and fucking cultists, right? So it's like
the worst people like climb to power. Like,
right.
There's a line I always remember from the Netflix show Daredevil. Nature abhors a power vacuum. So the moment
who says that? Fisk
says that.
Yeah.
Nature abhors a power vacuum.
Like, that was interesting.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. Vincent D'Onofrio
you have to have the voice for it, and I do not.
What is it? What's the phrase?
Nature abhors a power vacuum.
Nature abhors a power vacuum.
That's actually really good. We're gonna go with that one. Yeah. So
I love doing.
I don't have the voice to do that one. I can do other ones like
the Mouseketeers. No, I'm playing
the Mouseketeers.
The Mouseketeers.
Holy shitballs! That was a core memory unlock right there. My goodness, you really grew up in the '90s. All right, back to the depressing shit. He's opening up to her, and it's really cool to see all that stuff happens. But the intro is probably like one of my favorite parts of the episode.
They brought back fucking Ellie.
They did. And it's kind of the thing with
pregnant as fuck.
Ashley Johnson sounds so like her normal voice is Ellie.
Yeah, there was no voice acting on her
and
part.
And every time I heard Bella Ramsey talk, I would forget that she was English, and I was like, wow, she sounds so much like Ellie from the video game. And then to hear them both in the episode, now playing her mother, it's very surreal. Only through the power of switching mediums like this can this really like happen into like, which I thought was a really cool product. And the directors who made it, I checked out the episode on their podcast, and they were really happy they were able to get to do this because apparently that intro section. The creator of the game wanted to make a short of that intro part to bridge the gap of how Anna, which is the girl the Ellie's mom that she's playing, the lady that she's playing, it got shelved. It basically got put into developmental hell.
Is that right?
Yeah. So when the directors who were making the show for HBO found out about that, they were like, "We are fucking doing this because this story sounds dope." It
was really good. You don't ever get to meet Ellie's mother in the games.
You don't even know.
You just know that Marlene knows her somehow. And somehow you have this girl in your care. She's your ward.
Exactly. And that's literally all we know about that. I did find it kind of weird that she delivers the baby so quickly, and then like the baby's out so quickly, and she just there's some weird parts that were happening there, but they did that. That's fuck it. That's nothing.
I won't
important.
even pretend to know how labor is supposed to go down, how
I don't
quick
know either.
it goes.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm surprised about is that I didn't hear a little baby head thunk on the wood. If it just kind of,
I think they just edited past that or something.
they did probably just edit past it.
Yeah.
They didn't hit us with the House of Dragons,
Oh god.
afterbirth scene.
You know, it's weird you say that because I was thinking about that. I was thinking
they
about
could have went in.
the Game of Thrones. Like,
Yeah.
When you find out that Lyanna Stark is Jon Snow's mom and everything.
Oh, okay. There's that.
That kind of reminded me of that. So it's really weird you bring up Game of Thrones in that.
Well, I was thinking of House of Dragons in particular.
I know.
Have you watched that one yet?
No, fuck no.
No. Fuck no.
Fuck no. Why would I waste my time on that?
Oh
No.
boy. Oh boy.
That's a hot.
That's
take
a
on my head.
very hot take.
Yeah, I don't.
I
have,
could cook bacon on that take,
You
bro.
can.
That shit is
and
hot.
I will eat that bacon and put the bacon fat in the Brussels
Haram.
sprouts.
I
I will cook that in Brussels sprouts. I do not care.
All right.
That's for another day. Just another part for Ashley Johnson. She's like a really, really good voice actor.
So
she's done a bunch. So here's the part that you've been wanting me to say.
Let's talk about that because I
Okay.
also want to comment on good voice actor.
Here's the thing. If you ever grew up with me on this podcast or in my generation, you grew up in the 90s. And if you grew up in the 90s, that means you saw the show Recess on Disney Channel. And guess who voiced Gretchen on that show? It was Ashley Johnson.
Gretchen, tall girl, big ass round glasses, strangely oblong head,
Buck teeth.
buck
everything.
teeth.
Braces. Her tagline, whenever they would ask her something, was like, "Hey Gretchen, how much do you know about this?" And she's like a progeny genius in science, and she's like, "Oh, like more than a master's, less than a PhD." And then when I heard that, when I looked it up today, I was like, "God fucking damn it, that is her, isn't it?"
What's good voice acting? I genuinely have to know because when I hear like good voice acting, now I think Troy Baker, sure. But I also think people like Crispin Freeman, and I think people like who's the guy who did he does D&D on YouTube now, and he does Critical Role, Matt Mercer, right? Who does McCree and a bunch of other voices. Like I think voice actors who have like range, like the guy who does like Bender. Also does Jake the dog on in Adventure Time, and
he also did Fu in American Dragon,
right?
Jake
and even
Long.
though they're all kind of similar voices, they have like a really unique creative sound to them that isn't just existing elsewhere. But like, Ashley, she's got the same voice.
Yeah, my take
for all of it.
My take is this: like, range is important, and definitely Troy Baker's has a great range.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Conroy would come in every day, though. I mean, he's synonymous with Batman at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Rest in peace. Did a whole episode on that. The part that gets me is like if you're able to bring an emotion to the character, the voice will taper to that. So I feel like if you're going to have a good voice acting, you should have a good emotional pull for it, whatever that may be. Now, Gretchen, we don't necessarily have the biggest emotions for because I don't know. She's terribly like an emotional character. I'd have to deep dive into Gretchen from Recess, but you get enough of the background and the emotions and the drives for those people, and I think that creates good voice acting. That's my take on that.
I feel like with Gretchen, they really just drew what they thought was the nerdiest character possible for a girl with a very nasally voice.
Yeah, and it was a show about like kids playing Recess, so like
that's fair. I mean, how hard in the paint does it have to go, really?
Right. I mean, like,
okay.
You also have to play the context of what you're doing there, kid.
Like, that's fair.
So in that era of that stuff, I feel like it was good voice acting. And I love it when they do that. They're like when they bring in voice actors to come on for a different medium and stuff like this. Because another one came into that episode that I didn't know about until today, actually.
No shit. Who?
Yeah. So Laura Bailey is one of the nurses.
Who's Laura Bailey?
Laura Bailey plays Abby in The Last of Us Part 2.
Fuck me. Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. So they covered
I missed that entirely.
I wouldn't have known.
Is it the nurse who like turns around and they put the close-up on her face, kind of?
Yeah, I think so. And there's apparently she took a selfie with her and the doctor and just like a peace sign. It's a reference for the second game. I don't want to ruin it too much from that point on. But, essentially Laura Bailey voices a main character in the next game, and it's intense.
You gotta love the fan. You know what? This is fan service done right.
Exactly.
If I'm being like, they have brought in the people who were part of the original project, gave them their flowers by giving them a part on the show.
Just like an honorary cameo and stuff like that. And they were able to do it. Now, sure, like schedules and et cetera come into play. But the fact that they got the main two and a future main is awesome. It's so cool. They really did a good job of doing that. Because it reminded me also in one of the X-Men movies, one of the truck drivers in part of the show actually voices Beast, so he speaks Russian, but they gave him a little part for that part of it. So it's like,
really,
yeah, I only know that because like on FX they had the DVD and a movie kind of thing, so you got to see the background and whatnot. It just reminded me of stuff like that, and I love it when they do that because that's kind of like they treat everybody like a family for that, and that's really heartwarming.
Yeah,
I like that.
They're like the Madison Films of video game adaptations right now. All the homies are coming back for every single moment.
Chubbs just shows up in the background.
Yeah, exactly. They're all coming back every time. But on the note of that, like, so how did you feel about the finale? Did it hit you in the gut the way because you did play the game, if I remember correctly.
I did.
We did say you played the game.
It was like 8 years ago, but I did play it. Yeah. The way I looked at this was like I knew exactly what was going to happen, and it was kind of like watching like a beautiful car about to get like utterly wrecked, and you knew it was going to happen, and you knew that was just a fixed point in time that you can't time travel and change. It was hard, especially like when they turn down the sad music and make Joel like basically like kill all the Fireflies and Marlene. It was really hard to well, I mean, I don't know if enjoy is the right word, but to watch sometimes, because I was like, my thoughts on what Joel should have done, it's impossible to ask him that because he's already lost so much and a daughter, and he just gained another daughter back, essentially, psychologically.
Yeah.
How can you ask him to say okay to that? But he also took away her autonomy in deciding that. So did Marlene.
But so did Marlene. This is my biggest issue with the game, with that ending in general, is just like,
give me your take.
Both of these parties are removing her autonomy. Also, where's the fire?
What do you mean?
Where is the fucking fire? Why does she have to go do this surgery right the fuck now at this very moment? No chance for final goodbyes. Are you guys worried that she'll say no? I mean, if so, and you guys were kind of willing to kill over this anyways, you don't have to play the good guys in the end. You know what I mean? Like, just all the ways it could have gone down.
One pushback I will give to that is like, Marlene didn't raise her. She doesn't know her. And she has to consider fighting a fascist government and making really hard choices. In the game, you remember listening to like her recordings and her diaries.
Sure.
And she's like, I have to make an ultimate terrible decision of killing my best friend's daughter. And so it's not to say that she was all willy-nilly about it, but she definitely tried to find... She didn't know Ellie enough, but she still could have given her autonomy. Granted, she's only 14, but she could have still given her, like...
You know what?
A heads up about it, I feel.
You've just inspired me to realize
what's up,
how they answered this for me in the show, and I didn't even realize it.
Go for it.
In the game, they don't have the scene with Ellie's mom, right?
Yeah, that's my point. Yeah.
But what's significant about that scene is Marlene makes another tough decision as to whether or not to kill her good friend. And she doesn't at first, and then she does it very unceremoniously. Very unceremoniously. No goodbyes, no hug, no
she rips off
goodbyes. She rips that motherfucker like it's like, you know what I mean? Like it's on fire. And she lacks the emotional capacity to make that tough choice, but also allow for the closure. She's like, she doesn't have the bandwidth for the closure. She's just like, nope, doing it now. That's what she did with her mom, and that's how she's going to do with Ellie. Yeah. So in that respect, I think I understand the motivations of the Fireflies a little bit more now. With Joel, it didn't matter if he got a final goodbye or not. He was just not down for the idea no matter what. So I understand why he never made that recommendation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he just wasn't down for it no matter what the case was. I will also say, too, in terms of like changing the game to a show, it was always going to be kind of difficult. How do we turn a hour-long action sequence where the player's ducking behind chest-high walls and shooting people and crouching and sneaking all that shit into a scene?
and yet make you feel like you are playing that game.
Right.
Still.
So they put you behind Joel's back while he kind of goes through the halls, killing everyone and doing all these horrible things. But you know what's really powerful about it that the show aces that the game doesn't? In the game, you're definitely like pressed because obviously things are happening and you're feeling the stress of getting shot at. But in the show, the way that scene is shot, it's a tragedy.
Yeah.
Every single person he's shooting, they're doing nothing to make these kills like be cool or like John Wick shit.
No, they're trying to just follow
They're
orders.
playing it out like it's a fucking like you're watching Anakin slaughter younglings at the fucking Jedi temple. Like it's a really sad scene. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
They rewatch it.
They're not as helpless, but yeah.
They're not. No, they're not as Master Anakin. What's going on? No,
they didn't also just magically have English accents everywhere.
No, the kid who asked him
no,
was.
I mean the Fireflies. That's
okay. I'm just saying that kid did have an English accent,
I know.
but nonetheless,
it bothers me to no end when they do that in sci-fi and fantasy.
What? We might want to talk about that,
yeah.
But it's like that scene's shot like a tragedy, and I think that that's great because in the video game when I was playing it. It wasn't really, I mean, while I was killing all those people, I was kind of feeling like, fuck yeah, do that shit. You know what I mean? And it wasn't until the very end when Ellie was like, promise me that you're telling me the truth.
Right.
And he says, yes, that I was like, oh, I'm not a good person.
Nope.
But when I was watching this show.
But can you blame him?
I don't blame him.
Yeah, that's the thing. I can't.
But when I'm watching the show and the firefight's happening and the somber music is happening in the background and it's slow-mo, you're POV the school shooter.
Yeah.
In that
you're third person
moment. Yeah, you're third person, the fucking school shooter. You should not be cheering for this person now.
You're basically the Lakutu brother from Mario Brothers.
The what?
The guy in the cloud who's holding like the
Coop. Is he a Koopa?
He's a Lakitu brother.
Lakitu, yeah.
Like I know this shit because I loved Nintendo.
You're right, it is a Lakitu.
And so he's like the guy in the Koopa on the cloud who has like the fishing pole with the camera.
If you sped up that shooting scene by like 2 times speed and then put the Mario Kart farm race music behind it, and then he's just rolling through the halls, shooting people, dropping them. No, all right.
Only you.
That's the greatest edit. Yeah. I want that edit.
It's probably up there.
I want that edit.
I mean, you can find it. I'm sure if you have a YouTube break later, you could probably find it.
I might make it myself. Trendsetter. Fucking love it.
Okay.
But anyways,
in the immortal words of Eminem, back to reality.
Yeah, back to reality. So you said it hit, but it was kind of like it was familiar, right? Because it was like seeing.
I knew it's kind of like it's going to happen. It's a tragedy. You know that Romeo and Juliet are going to kill each other. You know that it's not going to end well, and it's not going to end in a way that it's like we said in the beginning part of this. There are no heroes in a world. It's easy to be a saint in paradise. It's hard to do anything else. Yeah. Whenever it's not paradise, it's easy to be a sinner in hell.
That's basically David to a T. Honestly, what you just got. But yeah. So, are you excited then for season 2? And what would you give this season overall rating 1 through 10?
I would give it a 10.
You give it a 10?
I would give it a 10.
I'm giving it an 8.
What's your 2 drawbacks for it?
My 2 drawbacks are, it's painful for me to say because it sounds so basic, but it wasn't an issue at first, but then became an issue for me later on, which is that like the infected could be a little more prevalent.
So they have talked about that?
A little bit.
They're going to delve more into that in the second season.
I mean, that'd be cool because the second season should be a lot of flashbacks too, right? Like so. Also,
they wanted to set the stage. I give it a lot of birth or like length in this way. The fact that this is one of the few, if not the only, goddamn good times that they actually took a video game and put it to a TV show and did a good job. So I will give it all of the breath,
give it the space,
all the breaks, all the space for that.
I'm with you.
Now, 20 years from now, we'll have higher expectations.
Sure. But it won't be one that I will look back at in that same way. I think I agree.
That's valid too. I get that. I really do. Because like, it's kind of like when I watched History of the World Part 1. Like, it's Mel Brooks. I love Mel Brooks, but like, it's pretty dated. Yeah. Whereas like I watch Spaceballs, and since it's sci-fi, it's like in the future. I can work with that shit all day. Yeah. Like Yogurt the merchandising, Yogurt the microphone, Spaceballs the microphone. Like we got everything out here. I give it that because it's going to lead to better things.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah.
It's trend setting. Not trend setting,
I would
but
say paving the way.
for its there you go. For its footprint that it's making in video game adaptations.
And it's going to show people that we can take video games and make them really good.
Yeah.
You know, instead of just be like, it's a bunch of beep boops and Pac-Man.
I saw
fucking boomers.
I think it was a TikTok or a Reddit post or something like that was like, dear gamers, why didn't you tell us that you guys were hiding like some of the best stories I've ever fucking read? And the comments were all just like,
we've been telling
y'all, but we just gave up because we're sick of hearing that bullshit.
Yeah, we're sick of hearing like blaming us for school shootings. We're sick of hearing people talking about like, it's like, they're a bunch of like fat kids who stay in their basement.
Yeah.
I was like, I have a 6-pack abs, sir.
You're 32 and still playing video games?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Bethany, look at this guy.
You know what? Say what you will about your accent with Vincent D'Onofrio, but your white girl,
amazing.
Flawless.
I grew up all around a lot of white girls. So
it's really good. I feel like I'm feeling like intimidated by your white girl accent.
Like,
I'm not that good.
I might call the police on you.
Jesus Christ, I believe that one. I actually believe that for a hot second.
I won't, because I'll get taken too, so it's fine.
That's a good point. Yeah, we're both going down on that ship.
We're not
We're both going down on that ship.
Brown party, man. So yeah, overall, my take on the series was actually really good. I really like it. I would give it a 10 just for the fact of like adapting it to a new medium. You have to change things, and I think they did a great job of that. I think that it was really good. I'm glad that you convinced me to watch it.
Yeah, I'm glad you did too, man. I forgot I convinced you to watch it.
Yeah, that's why you're on this episode. What are your thoughts on the overall?
Yeah, man. Overall, faithful adaptation. I will say that, like, having hit the finale, having played the game so many times, I think the show really shined when it added to the source material. Like, thank you for being faithful to what made this great, but the best episode was the Bill and Frank episode. Bar none. Bar none, the best episode was the Bill and Frank episode because of the way it expanded upon the people living in this universe.
Interesting.
Close second followed with Sam and Henry. Close second for me.
The 2-person bonds in this adaptation were really good.
Yeah, so whenever they took time to expand on the faithful story, amazing. But I think the reason it was amazing is because it was like something fresh for me, but still something very, you could say, canon. Is still grounded in the reality of the story. It's not
using
a slap
the
in the face
material.
to it. Yeah,
they literally went to the nerds and were like, "Hey, help us out."
Yeah, but I like literally, I would say if they had not done the Bill and Frank expansion and kind of just kept everything to the video game, I actually would have been really bored.
You know, until you made that point, I kind of agree with you.
Yeah, like I'm sure that the regular non-video gamer audience thinks this is the best thing since sliced bread. But like for me, I was like, this is nice to see happening this way. But there was no wow factor for me ever in the show because I knew all the awesome shit that was coming.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I was like, that didn't hit the way I thought it would. You know what I mean? So like points for being very faithful to the story, but also if I'm a super fan of the story, then where do I get my excitement from? Being able to just like be happy about the fact that there's a successful adaptation that was faithful, because that's going to wear off real quick. If they just keep doing that with different franchises and being like, see how we did that one for one? Eventually you're going to be like,
and that goes to my earlier point in the episode. Like, if you're just like for Watchmen, like they took everything in page by page and just put it on the screen, which is great. You're doing one for one.
Yeah.
But you're not grounding me in the same way that it works in a movie as opposed to a graphic novel.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we should call it, honestly.
Yeah, I'm good with it, man. I'm looking forward to the next season because it won't betray me the same way the game did. But that's a topic for another day.
That is a whole other thing, and that's what we're going to call it. All right. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, man, no doubt.
Hey, fan peeps. Thanks for listening, and I'd love any feedback you have for me. Please follow the Facebook page, They Need a Hobby, and follow us everywhere, social media-wise, under the handle @TNAHpod. That goes for Twitter and Instagram, and one of these days, I'll be super popular.
Nobody clip I am gay. I just want to put that. Nobody clip that.
No one. I mean,
for any of my friends listening to this shit,
no one was gonna clip that until you said that. So now everyone's gonna do that.
Yeah.